On our website, our prices are updated every 2 minutes and include free, fully insured delivery. To find out more, call us on 0121 403 3000 or visit us at bullionbypost.co.uk.
Fracking in Lancashire could be given the green light by the government. It's emerged that the Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government, Greg Clark, has written to the energy firm Quadrilla to say he will make the final decision about the project. He could override Lancashire County Council's rejection of its fracking applications earlier in June. Environmental campaigners have criticised the move. The Ribble Estuary Against Fracking in Lancashire have issued a statement expressing outrage over the state of the Secretary of State's letter. And they say by taking the decision away from local authorities, the government is making a mockery over its claims towards the localism agenda, and the group accuses the government of overriding the will of local people and says the decision indicates how far this government is off track and out of step with the global movement towards tackling climate change, and also how skewed this government's sense of national importance really is. Well, to discuss this further, I'm now joined by Julie Wassmer. She's from the East Kent Against Fracking group. Evening to you, Julie. Now, the fracking issue is deemed to be more significant than just a local matter. It's regarded by the government as a national issue. So it's no surprise then that we're going to get government intervention now?
The government have an overriding commitment to shale exploration in this country. They have done for a long time. But the important thing today, I think, is that if anyone in the UK ever thought that we lived in a democracy, or even doubted that we live in a democracy, they need doubt no longer, because it's clear that we do not. Local democracy has really been rendered a mere veneer, a facade. And I would say that the Lancashire County Council hearings themselves were really nothing short of a pantomime.
But that decision will be based on an inspection and a report and a recommendation by what appears to be an independent inspector. So that cabinet minister will be making a decision on somebody who's given an independent report on it.
Well, the planning inspector is Wendy Mackay. She'll make a recommendation, but it will ultimately be the Secretary of State who is ruling on this appeal. Let's not forget that Lancashire County Council are the elected representatives of the people of Lancashire on whom this industry will be inflicted. They made that decision with an incredible amount of forethought. There were papers, scientific papers submitted to them by Professor David Smythe, the Emeritus Professor of Geophysics at Glasgow University, also Professor Stuart Hazeldine, who is the Chair of Geology at Edinburgh University. All that is meaningless now because the Secretary of State is the one who is taking over Quadrilla's appeal. The applications were rejected. Quadrilla has appealed, but it's ultimately the government that decide upon this.
Julie, this is all in Lancashire. Why is this of concern to you in Kent? Why are you concerned about fracking there, where you are?
I'm a campaigner with two residents anti-fracking groups, but I also sit on the Environment Committee of the Campaign for the Protection of Rural England, Kent. And that's a highly respected charity that actually spoke out against the government's decision in August to fast-track fracking by limiting the amount of time that councils could deliberate on applications. And CPRE actually said nationally that while ministers talk of the national need for shale oil and gas, they have yet to make a convincing case to communities.
Okay.
And that's what all this was about. So it's very disingenuous for the government to claim that local communities would ever remain fully involved in shale and gas oil exploration if these decisions are ultimately taken by ministers.
Okay, so if the government does take a decision, you say this is undemocratic, what can you do about it? What is your next step? Just very briefly. Where can you go next?
Well, what's happened today is the government, and I want to make this really abundantly clear because I speak for many, many people this evening that obviously can't speak on RT themselves. But let me tell you, there are over 300 residents groups in the country. Frack Free Sussex has over 10,000 followers alone. Do the math on that. There's actually a lot of people actively opposing this industry. And what's happened now, today, is the government has put itself on a collision course with all of those people, with in fact the majority of people in this country who oppose shale, and that isn't a majority because only 21% now support fracking, 75% support renewables, and yet this government have made it easier for people to veto wind farms than they can fracking.
Right.
Fracking has been taken out of our hands, and it is scandalous.
Okay.
What's happening here today is actually the government has thrown down the gauntlet to communities all over this country. We will not back down. We will continue to fight. We will fight it with everything we can, legal and otherwise. But please do not let this government ever assume that our commitment is fading. It is not. This has put us on the collision course, and we will continue to fight.
Julie Wassmer, thank you very much indeed for joining us live on RT UK. Russia will suspend its visa